Hello out there, YouTube land. Welcome to the OK Good Review channel. And today, back again. Today is the last day of 2019. And as promised, we got a few pages here to get through. So this video is going to be about changes specific to the channel for 2019. So if you watched all of the previous vlogs, this is now the 5th, and you read through our November blog posts and the rest of the blog posts as well, if you haven't done that, then please stop this video and go do that first. This is meant to be like Legos, right? We build on each other. So this is meant to be a progressive series. And so please go look at those. So welcome back if you've gone to do that. And if you've already seen them, then we're just going to move on. So after a lot of thought, we're going to continue because of a few factors. And the first of those is that we're not only not monetized now, but we're nowhere near it. So that means that even under the highly erroneous assertion by the FTC that creators should be treated like operators, despite there being no provision in the COPPA language to support that idea, and the obvious fact that neither we nor any other creator actually operate the YouTube platform and or service, except for the actual YouTube accounts. Those probably do, but no other creator that's non-YouTube or non-Google. We're not a commercial entity, though. We don't make money off this. We never have. It's at this point, I don't know if we ever will. I mean, that's the dream, right? We'd like to. We'd love to make money off this. I would love to do nothing but create content for you guys. That would be great. That'd be a lot of fun. And honestly, guys, I generate so much of it, and I have so many channels that I actually would like to do. I could conceivably do this as a job and still come close to not having enough hours in a day. Like I've got creatively, this is a lot of fun to do, and there's a lot of niche stuff that I really haven't gotten into because this channel is it's a general audience. It's a general type channel. It's a variety show. That's what we called it in the early days, and that's what it is. It's a little something, little sprinkling there for everybody, and that's really what we want this channel to be. Some of the other content that's on the other channel I do is a lot more specific, and I may be adding some things to that one as well in 2020. This video isn't about that though, so I'm not going to get too far into that, but being able to have this be a lucrative function, it would be that would be something I would really like to pursue at some point. But back to the COPPA thing. So if there is data being collected, we don't know, and we have no way for us to know that. We can't discover that information. We have no idea. I don't know. Here's the bottom line: we are not and cannot possibly be benefiting from it. So that obviously, the FTC aside, that obviously doesn't prevent YouTube from flagging it or taking it down or whatever, but it's their right as the site owners and the actual operators of the site. So we're in their parlor, right? We're in their we're in their sitting room. We're sitting in their lounge. We're hanging out in their living room. We're in their house, And if they want to boot us, then we're booted just like anybody else. And so the second reason is that the FTC has never taken action against a creator directly in the past, under COPPA anyway, to my knowledge. They might have done some of that. There might be settlements I don't know about, but I don't know about them ever having an enforcement like that due to COPPA against a content creator. Websites, yes, but content creators themselves, I don't know of any. And even with their current flawed interpretation guiding that enforcement, it should be pretty clear that we are not really intended for kids, as defined by that 13 and under. We don't make a lot of content for that segment. Again, if they like it, I mean, great. Like I said, it's a variety show, right? We're sprinkling everybody, right? So we don't make nursery rhymes. We don't make, that type of videos. I had plans to do something like that, actually, with some children's books and kind of live action reenact them, which I'm now not going to do. But we have not actually done any of those. The closest we get is like some of the Paw Patrol and things like that. Those we're calling for kids because I don't think an adult would ever be interested in them. When we filmed them, we never thought, oh, hey, we want this age range to be viewing this. Like, that has never been a thought that's ever entered our head. We're not targeting, honestly, any age group. But if we were, I would say it wouldn't make any sense for us to target an age group that doesn't have money, right? Because eventually, once you have a brand built and all this other stuff, you want them to spend money on merchandise, or if you're an affiliate, to spend money through your affiliation. I don't have any of that stuff. But if we were going to add that in someday and try to make an actual go of this, if the stars all aligned to do that, we would need that in place. And it wouldn't make any sense to have it in place for people who don't have money. So children were never a primary or even secondary target audience. And we're trying to have things in place so that we can move to a different level if the opportunity ever presents itself. And that just has not ever seemed to be something that makes sense. Honestly, too, as the architect, I guess, of the channel, the guy who comes up with most of the planning and does all of the editing and a lot of the other stuff, I don't think on that wavelength. I don't think I could write a children's book, for instance. I don't think I have that capacity. I don't work like that. And as long as I'm the one sort of designing a lot of these videos, and I know pretty specifically when they're Leomatic sort of impelled, but when it's just me, it's not really, I don't work on that wavelength, so we'd be doing really badly at it, actually, if we were trying to go after that audience, if it actually even made sense, which, again, I don't think it does. So relying on a non-codified norm or tradition or history or precedent that's not written can be pretty intensely problematic. And as we've seen currently, for instance, when a bad faith actor completely disregards all of it, right? All the history that came before, all the norms. And so when you have somebody like that, it leaves a gigantic sized opening for abuse. And that could be either from, in this case of the FTC, a field agent, or the organization itself. And perhaps you could have a corrupt regime, say, that wants to control information itself at some level, directing them to bury creators and platforms under an avalanche of lawsuits, right? A lot of the way the courts work in America today is dollars. If you have enough dollars to litigate something, then great. If you don't, you probably are going to lose the case, whatever it is, regardless of the merits. That's the court system we have in place in America today, right now. And in that climate, that's what you have to look at. Because you can do continuations and all sorts of stalling tactics that all they do is just drive up legal fees. That's really what a lot of that does. And it's a delay. So you're hanging on for it, right? And basically, through attrition, they just price you right out of the case. Right? So yeah, you can leverage that in a really abusive manner, potentially. Now, I'm not saying anybody at the FTC today would do that. But what about in 2021? Or tomorrow? Or 2020? Or any day that is not right this second as I record this? Right? We're not locusts. We have to think in terms of the future here. So relying on those norms, it could be kind of dangerous. That's why we would strongly prefer something more concrete from the FTC that they're not going to be pursuing creators. And they shouldn't be pursuing creators, given the inherent limitations of creators on the YouTube platform to actually be able to violate COPPA. Like, even if a creator wants to violate COPPA, they don't have the means to do it. I think that's a really critical point here that sometimes gets missed a lot. I don't think it would get missed in court, right? I think if they took somebody to court and it was somebody like Mr. Beast or somebody like that who is well funded enough to continue the fight, I think they would have a very problematic time establishing that a creator they actually have the capacity to violate COPPA, whether or not the desire is present or not. So for us, I mean, half the team is obviously a child, half a team OK Good Review, and he is in the majority of the content. So for the toy reviews and the majority of our content, our approach was always to present, and this is in the blog, we've got the entire history of the channel there. So our approach was always to present the perspective from a child, because we every time we go to a toy aisle, inevitably somebody will come up and ask him how old he is and what he likes and what the kids his age like and what are they into and what do they buy for this age range and so on, right? It's mostly grandparents and people who don't have children themselves that aren't necessarily versed in that type of thing. So we had that perspective of a child as well as the perspective of a much older adult, which is yours truly. Now, so that was kind of how we wanted to do this in a unique manner. We wanted to have both viewpoints, right? There's a whole lot of people in that mid-range already doing this. We don't also need to do that, but kind of having in the same video, what are my thoughts based on a history of growing up in a muscle car culture, for instance, versus his, where that is completely not present anymore. When I grew up, there was no such thing as a cell phone. There was no internet. I was slightly younger than Leo Maddock when we got our first color TV, to give you an idea how far back it was, right? We had black and white TVs. We had rotary phones, not to date myself too much, but anyway, so we had that perspective going on. What is he excited about versus what am I looking at? And that was kind of our approach, which doesn't really, to me, at all cater to pre-13-year-old children, because most of them, that sort of a historical reference is completely lost to them. So we were always trying to go for a general audience, like I said, sprinkling everything. But I would say it was geared a little bit more towards older audiences because of that historical perspective that we always tried to fit in there. And so we have a very, very few amount of videos with the younger half of our team flying solo, and there's no input from me or interaction with me, but the content in that is still not intended for a child audience. And as he gets older, the content continues to drift further and further from what could conceivably be considered that territory. And there are quite a number of videos with just myself, and there's no appearance or involvement with him at all, and those are very specifically not targeted at a child audience. So, like I said, we never had a target age and range. Seniors and older adults, like I said, were generally the ones talking to me or him in stores about what to buy other kids. And we thought there might be a need here to have content that would address some of that. That audience, though, is not children. We wanted to cover that segment, and parents as well, who might not be versed in every single toy. Most of them I don't think are. So if there is something that they should know about the toy, that would, more fall to my side of things. Or if there was something that was particularly frustrating to our younger element, that is also good for a parent to know. Children, they don't care. That's not content for them. It doesn't speak to them, and I don't honestly even think it matters to them. I would say, the vast majority of the age range, if I had to put my finger on it, we really wanted to be accessible to someone who is voting age or older. I would say that is probably really more what we had in mind for the channel. And the About section, I always said we're all ages. We're family friendly, and I've added now the general audience to include a little bit more specificity into things. But our blog, the blog has been around since 2016. when we fired off this channel, and the blog is a pretty transparent blog. Like I put hard numbers up there so you can see the actual growth of the channel, and you can find some of our thoughts behind it. We were never targeting children. There's also now over 2 hours of vlogs on the subject as well. And there's a lot of commentary in the actual videos themselves. So when you're talking about intent and things like that, you should be pretty well covered. This would be now the 5th vlog that addresses this, and I think this is probably going to put us over 3 hours because this is meant to be a bit of a lengthy one. So now obviously the FTC or YouTube can override us on this. We can't control what they do. And obviously we don't have an interest in being fined. And we don't realistically expect YouTube to stand up for creators and argue with the FTC about age determination. So maybe more of our content's going to be flagged. If it is, I mean, we're not going to protest it. We're not really protesting their determination now. Again, there's no financial impetus, I guess, to us doing that. So it just isn't really worth the argument right now. But that might change, of course. We don't agree with the number that their AI has flagged. And YouTube, I think, really needs to get a rein on that, or they're going to intensely demotivate a large portion of their creator base, which will have repercussions down the line. But again, like I said, we're not monetized, so there's not much point in arguing. I mean, we hate losing the comments on those videos, though. That's actually the thing that's the worst. So YouTube, I think, made a stupid decision there. They never should have dropped out the comments and some of the other stuff, because that is, I think, driving a lot of this furor towards YouTube, and I think it's actually going to get worse in 2020 when this hammer hits. And I talked about that a little bit on Twitter. I think they're honestly looking to shed creators. YouTube is really duplicitous. They're not. They always try to come across as angels. And they just have a hard time admitting fault. Obviously, right? They're the ones that are perfect throughout this whole thing. It's either the nasty creators or the nasty FTC. And poor YouTube is just there, trying to give away handfuls of flowers that they picked in the meadow. That kind of nonsense. And it's funny to me that they say it's not their direct actions that triggered this whole thing when it is. I mean, it's completely a YouTube issue. YouTube is the one that actually committed the actions. And to me, these kind of changes of theirs, they don't want to reprogram the algorithm, right? So that people can keep comments. They don't want to do that. And to me, it makes no sense of doing that, because it's going to cost them more not to do that, I think, in the long run. But you get to corporations, and it gets really funky really fast. And I think that's what's going on here. They are definitely at an arm's length or farther relationship with the truth and honesty. And that's a pity. But I would say this: Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are not any better. And I think that there is going to have to be something big in the future for these guys to stop acting like they're untouchable. Right now, they all are. 2% of their net worth is what they got fined for YouTube. So the FTC thinks it's a big deal, and I don't think anybody else does. And I think the FTC is just trying to push that narrative that it was a big deal, but it wasn't. YouTube has already recovered that fine. I mean, that's a blip on the radar. That means less than nothing to them. What matters to them is dropping viewers, dropping advertisers. That's what really matters to them, because that affects them directly. They could lose half the creators tomorrow, and that would not affect YouTube directly as much as the viewers and the advertisers. So let's get it straight. Let's know what we're talking about here. Anyway, so even if YouTube deletes a video or they delete the channel, I still have 100% of the content backed up. I have every bit of footage that we've ever done. And some of it probably would come back online, one form or another. I don't realistically anticipate attracting too much FTC attention. Even with how vocal I've been, how much I've been trying to rise up and be counted in this whole thing. But I mean, realistically, a low chance is not a zero chance. So, it is still possible. The other half of Team OK Good Review, like a lot of the other kids these days, dreams sometimes of being a YouTuber and a YouTube star and having that be his job and so on. I also like making content. So even if I have to pull all the remotely not kid content off of this channel and put it on the other one or make a new one, we can probably still keep going and just hope it gets better, I guess. That was always my hope was always that by the time he graduated, this could be a job for him, a full-time gig. So my curve was a lot longer. That's why we're not really so pressed with a lot of, building the channel and all this other stuff. Because with that much of a curve, even if it doesn't make money for the first, say, 5 years or more, if it winds up in the long term, eyes on the prize kind of a thing, right? It de-stresses a lot of it. So for the channel going forward, we're still going to keep making content consistent with the way that we have all along. So what does that mean? It means no swears or anything like that. Safe for work, family friendly, general audience, right? Variety show, sprinkling for everybody. So we've tried to approach this the right way from the start, including even minimizing the ad impact to the viewer on our videos when we had access to where it could be placed within the content. So we didn't bomb our videos with commercials. If they're being bombed now, I have no idea. But if they're being bombed now, that's not us. We specifically approached it more as a piece of art or a TV show, like on the streaming service, where you wouldn't get necessarily bombed with that. Or a rock video, right? So if you have a rock video interrupted by a commercial, then that rock video is wrecked. So we tried to be careful with that. We always held comments from the get-go, because we felt like they were part. So if somebody was on there and reading through the comments and just looking through whatever, trying to get more information, we didn't want there to be a bunch of swears. We didn't want there to be links to other stuff. We've been trying to do this the right way and be above board the whole time. And we have now almost a 4-year track record of that. So despite Creekcraft's really promising FTC meeting, and I think that a lot of what came out of that has been pretty promising, where there's still a huge YouTube problem that prevents us from developing this channel. So that part is actually inducing stress now. And so we need to, for the channel to continue, we need to pull that back out of it. So in an effort to try to take a lot of the stress and pressure out of maintaining the channel, and also trying to put the more of a foundation in place where if conditions change, we potentially could develop it. And we think consistency is a big key to that. So we're going to make some changes starting January 1st, 2020, which would be tomorrow by the time you watch this. The first of those is that we're going to 2 videos a week, and they'll be posted Wednesday and Saturday, and I will actually make that change in our About page as well, just like our posting schedule is in our About page. So Wednesday, Saturday, so 2 videos a week as opposed to 3, which is, so 2018 it was pretty much 4 videos a week. 2019, for most it was 3 videos a week. 2020 we're going to 2 videos a week. And we will go to 1 video a week or less if necessary. But if we get to that level, I mean, let's be frank here, the channel is probably on its last legs if that happens. So I've either canceled completely or I put on hold 75% of the planned upcoming content because of this and because how YouTube is acting. We have some series, right? We have the Universal Yum Crates That's done. The Japan crate will be done after February. So those two are going to be finished. We might still do random food videos, but the crates are over. And if you are interested in why, it's because we had to cut as much cost of operations as possible out of this going forward. And those two things are not inexpensive. And I mean, if we were monetized and we were getting solid views out of it, we probably would continue it. I mean, it was fun to do, but realistically, where it's going to be this hard to develop the channel, sinking money into it right now is just not a thing that makes any sense to me right now. So we're not doing that. And hopefully the climate will improve, but for right now, Okay, so all future strictly child-oriented character content, such as videos featuring Imaginext, Paw Patrol, etc., is also most likely completely done. We haven't done an Imaginext video for a long time. I don't think we're ever doing another one. I mean, probably not a shooting gallery video either, which isn't really, that's neither here nor there, but we're probably not doing any more of those. The Paw Patrol, we have a couple written. I don't know if we're going to shoot those. One of them was planned for the 700th video. Those videos are a lot of work. Those are usually pre-planning plus a full day shooting plus nearly a full day of editing. So they're not inconsequential undertakings. And some of them do pretty well. Our most popular video is one of those, which will 100% be marked for kids. So to me, that's an awful lot of work for something that we will not even be able to interact with an audience on. And I think probably we're not going to do that. However, I'm reluctant to say never. So I will say that it's probably 85% or higher chance we're not going to do it. Maybe even put over 90. But again, I'm not going to say zero. But anything outside of that one or two videos, we're not doing any more of those. Anything that would get flagged by YouTube is, in our view, that actually to us would not be something an adult would be interested in. We just need to not do any more of those unless and until the FTC gets a lot more reasonable with how they want to prosecute stuff. Even if YouTube decided that they still are going to flag all that stuff for kids and take away comments, and we're still not doing them. So again, YouTube is really kind of the grit and the jelly here. So a number of our Transformer lines are as collected as they're ever going to be, and they're done. And the other ones will probably continue, but it's not going to be at the pace that it has been in years before. We still have a pretty significant backlog, though, so you probably won't notice a difference until later. But 2021, I think that'll be more impactful. Doing science and the challenge videos, we're still going to do those where they're applicable. The holiday videos will probably continue as normal. The model builds will continue until I either deplete my stack or run out of space. I've got content, I think, through May of 2020. And I have another 7 or 8 that I've got planned that I want to finish. So probably it'll be all the way through 2020, assuming nothing crazy happens. I have a discussion series that might get moved to the other channel. It's on hold right now, as well as another series that I've got planned. I might resume the former and launch the latter in 2020, depending on what happens. I'm not going to say what they are because I don't know yet. But those are kind of in the limbo, I guess, for right now. The React series is on hold. I thought it was probably done, but I've heard some rumblings that he might be wanting to do that again, so who knows. As of right now, it's still on hold, but if you follow us on Twitter, because the notification works poorly, if at all, as it is now, and they're probably going to take notification away, because that sounds just like the kind of thing they would do. So if you follow us on Twitter and you see the videos there, then you'll know it's restarted. Those are pretty fast videos though, so we might be moving that to one a week, in which case that would actually change the posting schedule back to what it is now instead of Wednesday and Saturday. But as of right this second, I don't know that we're going to be doing that. Story mode videos, those are on hold, and those are most likely done. The October collection videos, at this point, we're just going to continue on as usual. This whole thing, though, doesn't really leave us in a good spot overall. Much of our content is probably on the bubble, which means it's primed for being targeted, most likely by YouTube itself. And that means that we won't be able to develop the channel very well much further. It's incredibly stupid that things are like this. It's just, it just disgusts me to no end that this is what's going on. It's just offensive. And there's so many paths to avoid going down this road. It's like they picked the worst possible thing and said, hey, let's do that. If the FTC, for instance, enforced COPPA as it was written, rather than trying to interpret it to damage and harm creators improperly, and if they don't mean to do that, then they should make a public written statement to that effect, right? Because actions are speaking louder than words. And they're saying, they have a guy in the press conference saying they're going to go after creators directly. It's a pretty clear message. Pretty hard to uninterpret that. But if they just held YouTube alone accountable, which is what they should be doing, by all rights, it should be YouTube. That's the platform. That's the site. I am not the site. No creator is the site except for the YouTube accounts. Is the FTC account the site? No. Then how could anybody else be? If they were doing this the right way, creators would not be stressed about going into bankruptcy over a dubious fine. You know, and we've got a lot of videos saying that we don't think it's going to happen, we don't think it's likely to happen. I'm saying that to you now, but that doesn't mean never. Right? It could still happen. I don't control the FTC or YouTube. But yeah, it's still, the possibility is not zero. Even if not that, it's demotivating to such an extent as to not be interested in creating content for the platform. If there was a competitor to YouTube, they would have people, I think, trying to kick in the door right now. So Amazon, Microsoft, if you guys are listening, there's a pretty big opportunity right now because YouTube doesn't want to take care of stuff. They don't want to take care of the people that made them. So even if the FTC was out of it, let's just say they are, YouTube could still change the terms of service. I mean, that's their right. But you wouldn't have that government with their $42,000 sword of Damocles that's hanging over everyone's head. Inappropriately, I might add. And it still is. I mean, maybe it's a rope hanging it now instead of a thin thread, but it's not gone. It's still there until the FTC says it is not there. The whole thing is disgusting. And, you know, YouTube could have stuck up for their creators. They could have. They could have forced this to court and gotten an actual legal decision that would be a lot more weighty. And they decided that they'd rather not do that. So, thanks for nothing, YouTube. Again, if I haven't thanked you for nothing enough. Their decisions are just trash. In this regard, they're complete trash. And they're not being honest in any of their videos about this either. Like, that's the thing. You know, I really hope someday there's a way to hold their feet to the fire better on this. So, I mean, if you've seen the other blogs, you notice that I tend towards the wordy side of things. But even with that, I don't have enough to adequately describe how incredibly disheartening this is. I mean, I put quite a bit on hold to try to develop the channel, to get it going, and to get a content base, right? And it's grim that more and more that appears to be for nothing. I mean, the silver lining, I guess, is that going to 2 videos a week is going to definitely leave me a lot more time to resume some of those projects. You know, assuming, like, my mental energy is really invested in making content. That's the big part of this, right, as being an artist. So I can't necessarily switch gears and just start, you know, writing books and short stories or you know, stuff like that again. unless I can figure out a way to integrate them into this. That's I'll have the time, that'll be good, but it just, that kind of thing sticks like a red hot railroad spike in your mind and gets to be intensely distracting. And that's one of the really frustrating parts about this. But I mean, a lot of what was fun and engaging has had a lot of the joy sucked out of it. The content I do for the other channel is still a lot of fun, and that is very definitely not even remotely something that would be considered for children, I don't think, by anybody. But that is not something I can also hand off. Like, that's a very specific me channel. It's not a channel that can morph and develop into something that the younger star of our team could take. Having that sort of goal and that dream just be buried, under mountains of ash is just sucks. Things will never be the same again. I mean, once that switch is flipped, it can't be unflipped. And the way this has happened, I mean, the whole thing is just utterly depressing. And it didn't have to be like this. So maybe somebody will actually do a good interview with Susan someday. I doubt that'll be allowed to happen, but maybe somebody from YouTube will actually have a good interview done with them where they can address and confront some of this. Maybe. I haven't seen one yet. I don't hold a lot of hope, but maybe. This is just, I mean, it's a, what's the English word for it? Gutted? I mean, this is a shot right to the gut. I mean, for all that, we're going to try to bravely soldier on as long as we can anyway. Your support still matters. So the things that you can still do are subscribe, and you can follow our channel and share the content if you would like to do that as well. Following us on Twitter is, please do that. please follow us on Twitter. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get the information consistently. You follow us on Twitter and make sure that you're going to our timeline, because Twitter is not great at feeds either. And like many other channels have said, I mean, we're going to do this as long as we can. I think we both like making content. It's a lot of fun. I mean, our star is, if you look at the progression of what he's been doing in videos from then till now, he's taking a lot more of an active role. So you're watching him grow and develop. That's not of interest to children. Can't say it enough. Kids don't care about other kids doing stuff like that. They care about themselves doing that. That's a very normal child thing, right? Is to be a lot of egocentric type focus. Most kids are like that. So that kind of progression honestly isn't even of interest to him. But you can watch it. His family can watch it. Friends can watch it that are not living in the same city as us anymore. They can see, how somebody is starting to take flight and get his wings, and he's doing, 100% transformations, for instance. I don't generally have to get involved unless he hits a little stumble. In December, he wrote and directed and did the entire video for his holiday message by himself. He also helped with the editing of that. So now he's starting to get a feel for the process. So this could be something that could potentially be a fulfilling and meaningful thing for him, and hopefully lucrative as well. Like, all those parts that I kind of had in mind are sort of falling into place. And then we've got this cudgel of the FTC and this building wrecking ball, this hammer of YouTube. And it's a shame. Yes, it's YouTube's side. They could always do that. That was always their prerogative. But it's just so dumb how this is happening. I really hope that the FTC comes at this correctly and does things the right way. I have more faith in them right now than I do YouTube, because YouTube, especially if you look at their actions in 2019, has been progressively going the other way. They've been doing less and less of the right thing. Or they've been doing the right thing half-heartedly. Or they've been doing things that are completely not even for the right reasons. There's a problem at YouTube. And like I said, maybe not right away, but if they don't get a handle on it, their current trajectory is going to be intensely problematic in the long run. They might be number 1 and number 2 right now, right? Google and YouTube. But does anybody remember Alta Vista as a search engine or web crawler? Anybody remember those things? If the internet has taught us anything, remember that bubble, the big tech bubble? It's that these things are very transitory. And with the way technology is going, the development and the rapid pace of it, I don't think we can say that YouTube will always be in the position they're in now. They weren't always in the position that they were in. Look at Internet Explorer as a browser. It had by far, the biggest advantage that any browser could have, and that was part of an operating system. And there was a few sites and services that forced you to use it. So they had the greatest advantage that anybody could have. But that browser sucked. And now, I don't know of anybody who uses it. I haven't known of anybody who's used it for a long time. We can't sit here thinking this sort of thing is impossible. Right? Everybody figured Blockbuster Video would be around forever. This stuff has a way of changing. So we can't all say, oh, well, it's a done deal. It's a given that YouTube is going to be king of the mountain forever and ever and ever till death do us part. We can't make that assumption. Remember MySpace? That was the biggest thing for a while. ICQ? Anybody still use that anymore? IRC chats? I imagine those are around somewhere. I don't know where, but I imagine they are. But they're not, none of those things are enjoying the popularity they once did. People have a way of figuring these things out, right? And if YouTube does not get it together, if they don't find a way to come a lot more correct on this, what you're going to see is what you see now, which is a fracturing, right? You see people making content right now just for Patreon. So you see a fracturing. And people don't want to develop their personas strictly on YouTube anymore. You see Twitch getting a lot of action. If Amazon or Microsoft decided to devote their resources to a site like this, I think you would have a lot of interest right out of the gate. Or Sony, right? I mean, as far as a gaming type thing, there's some built-in stuff that you could do potentially with consoles. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here, I think, if somebody wants to take a stab at YouTube. And as YouTube gets more and more caught up tripping all over itself, trying to pretend to please everybody when they're only concerned about themselves to the exclusion of every single other person on the planet, that is going to get them into trouble someday. But I want to leave this on a positive note. So, again, a heartfelt thanks to every single one of you that's ever watched, that's ever commented, that's ever subscribed, that's ever hit the old thumbs up button, that's ever followed us on Twitter. You guys, everybody says this, but it's because it's true. You guys are the thing that helps to keep us going when things are looking bleak and dark. It's you guys. And we appreciate all of you coming by and supporting us in whatever way. We hope to be able to continue to do this for you for a long time to come. And if any of you want to recruit your friends or family into this, like we need pretty much all hands on deck at this point, we would be grateful, as we are, for you continuing to look at our stuff. So thanks for staying with us all the way to the end of this very lengthy video. And we wish you a Happy New Year for 2020 and beyond. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.